Another episode of Podcast P presented to you by Prize Picks, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original.
Those players who shouldn't be asking for a no-trade clause.
No, you shouldn't. No. Great player, but
What have you done for me, baby?
Like what have you done to be like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna make sure that you can make the decision. No, you ain't bringing in no ring. We ain't successful. Nothing. No, bro. No, that shit is whack. No.
74 games.
Can't Lonzo do.
Can't stay healthy.
You saying I'm loving.
That has nothing to do with the game.
Yes, it does. That's like saying like,
You can't say that.
why not?
Look at our boy.
Yeah, but that's
So if you've been following the NBA recently, you will know that Paul George has been clowned a lot this season. And he's actually probably the most memed player in the NBA all over social media this year. But I think NBA fans are quick to forget who a player was. And I want to see how Paul George went from an NBA superstar being taken seriously as a potential MVP candidate to being one of the most memed players in the game today. So if you want to see more content like this, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So Paul George gets drafted in 2010 to the 10th seed Pacers and immediately clearly a franchise player for the Pacers. His most notable moments were taking on prime LeBron James and the Heat. It was back in 2013. He took LeBron James and Dwayne Wade to 7 games, a full 7-game series with big moments like driving by LeBron, dunking on Birdman. He was one of the best two-way players in the league and the future was very bright for Paul George. He put up numbers. He put up 20.6 rebounds and 5 assists a game on over 40% from 3 against prime Miami Heatles, which is unheard of. And the future was bright. It was clear that he was going to be one of the faces of the NBA and that he was kind of up next after the LeBron generation fades out. So he's one of the best two-way wings in the league. And unfortunately, the next year, summer of 2014, in the Team USA scrimmage, he actually gets injured and actually completely snaps his leg, which is something that a lot of people don't talk about. People don't talk enough about the hard rehabilitation process that it takes to be able to get back, not just to being an NBA player again, but get back to being an NBA player, an all-star caliber NBA player, and even an MVP caliber player. So fast forward a couple of seasons, and now he gets traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder to join up and pair up with Carmelo Anthony and Russell Westbrook. He puts up elite numbers, finishes third in MVP voting, only behind James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who both end up having historical MVP seasons themselves that year. He averages 28, 2 steals a game, and with 8 rebounds and also an additional 4 assists a game. So in the 2019 playoffs against the Portland Trailblazers, when Damian Lillard hits the shot over Paul George and then Paul George calls it a bad shot.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bad shot. Care what anybody says, that's a bad shot. But hey, he made it.
I don't think a lot of people really understood what Paul George was trying to say. Of course, he was upset that they just lost in a devastating fashion, but that is a bad shot. That's the shot that you're willing to live with people to take. It's just that the two people you don't want to take that shot are Curry and Dame hit the sidestep 3 that no one expected really, and it went in. So things blow up in OKC after that series, and now he gets shipped over to team up with Kawhi Leonard in LA. And his stats, so something to note is, as Paul George and Kawhi Leonard team up to go to the Clippers, LeBron James has acquired Anthony Davis and is ready to contend with the Lakers. So the stage is set. We're going to have the Battle of LA, conference finals, first seed versus the second seed. Everyone was there to see it. The King of LA, or the battle to be who will be crowned as the King of LA. So very unexpectedly, due to some things I won't get into, there's a global pandemic and everything has to shut down for a while. The NBA comes back, end up going into the bubble, and the Clippers have an absolute historical meltdown. With Doc Rivers as their coach, they blow a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets and get eliminated from the second round of the playoffs. It was no longer playoff P. People started calling him pandemic P or even PG 13%, which were hilarious jokes. But he even mentioned, not just him, and a lot of other players have mentioned that the pandemic is actually the hardest championship ever, or the hardest thing to do. Being locked away from the world, a lot of uncertainty, not being able to see your family. There was a lot of mental problems, he says, that he was dealing with during that time. But I'm not making excuses for him. 4 for 16 in the Game 7, even hits the side of the backboard. But Kawhi disappeared as well. Kawhi himself dropped 14 points, 6 rebounds and 6 assists, which is not enough if you want to be called the king of LA and considered the best player in the world at the time. But I guess out of sight, out of mind, all the blame got shifted from Kawhi onto Paul George. The following year, with Kawhi out, he leads the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals, averaging great numbers, great efficiency, and not enough people talk about this series. One bad series shouldn't completely tarnish his whole time in LA. Yes, he got injured as well, but Kawhi was seen as the number one option, as the leader of this team, and he's never available. So how can people expect the Clippers to have won anything? They even end up adding James Harden and Russell Westbrook, but it still doesn't change the Clippers' hopes. Kawhi is in and out of the lineup. Again, no one wants to talk about Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi is very smart. He has no online presence, and out of sight means out of mind. But in 2023, he ends up debuting Podcast P, basically entertainment / podcast for him and his friends to talk about things in the NBA. Now, I'm not against player podcasts. I think they're very insightful and you get to know more about your favorite player, which is actually very good for helping growing the game. And people a lot of the time are talking about declining views. I think this can help with that. You get to build a relationship with the player and just get to have an insight about what your favorite player likes to do and those type of things. But he gets a lot of criticism for this. But the problem is, as he goes through his injuries, he still is podcasting because that's what he has to do in his spare time. And people start to question his love for the game and how long does he even love basketball anymore? And again, he isn't the only player with he's not the only current player with a player podcast. Other players also have their own podcasts, like Trae Young, for example. But this podcast, for some reason, is very successful. I think part of it is the sense of humor, the flow of the show, and the articulation. But people aren't happy with this. A lot of fans expect NBA players to be training 24/7 in the gym when that clearly wasn't the case. Even Kobe Bryant wasn't doing that because it's physically impossible. But that's just what fans think. Going into the 2024 season, his contract is up with the Clippers and he's going into free agency. And I'll let him just explain what his thought process in free agency was.
I'm like, whoa. 2 years, 60?
Hey, that's crazy, bro.
That's great.
That's
crazy.
crazy.
That's crazy.
So I'm like, wow, no, I'm not signing that. Like, then I hear wind of like, what they're going to give Kawhi. So I'm like, just give me what Kawhi got. Like,
Right.
y'all view us the same. Like, we came here together. We want to finish this shit together. I presented the 3-150 no trade. Because in the meeting, they're like, we want you here long term. We want to, when you're retired, we want you to be a Clippers for a lifetime. Like all of this stuff. We want you to be here. We want you to be a Clippers your whole career. So I'm like, cool. Give me the 3 years, 150, no trade then. Like no trade clause. Then I'm taking less, but at least I know I'm here.
Mhm.
Like I'm committed to y'all. Like they didn't want to do the no trade.
Do that?
He asking for a no trade clause. I'm sorry.
Do you feel like Paul George is one of those players who shouldn't be asking for a no trade clause?
No, he shouldn't. No. Great player, but
What have you done for me lately?
Like what have you done to be like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna make sure that you can make the decision. No, you ain't bringing in no ring. We ain't successful. Nothing. No, bro. No, that shit is whack. No.
74 games.
So what Brandon Jennings says here makes absolutely no sense. It's actually best for you as the player to get the no trade clause so you can decide and dictate your career. Because at the end of the day, why wouldn't you? If you have leverage, you use the leverage. Gil is right here. So alongside the Knicks, Philly is seen as a team that can really contend against Boston to make it out of the East and go into the finals. But unfortunately, in the preseason, Joel Embiid and Paul George both get injured. Joel Embiid has always been battling his injuries, but Paul George hyperextends his knee. And the problem is, as he's out for some time, the podcasts keep coming. So it became a meme and a joke that, well, he's having more podcast appearances than actual NBA appearances, more podcast episodes than NBA field goal attempts, which are hilarious. But I don't think it takes away from his love for the game. There's not much you can do if you keep getting injured. And why aren't other players like Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard held to the same standard? Are we saying Paul George is better than them? No. So why is he being held to such a high standard? So the 76ers basically are cursed. The one bright spot, the rookie and favorite to win Rookie of the Year, Jerry McCain, who was an amazing point guard / shooting guard for them, ends up getting injured with a torn meniscus and is out for the rest of the season. Tyrese Maxey also gets injured. So 4 starters are basically out. The season is basically cooked. And then if we're being honest, what situation has he been in that actually guarantees a ring? A lot of the winning a championship is actually out of your control, and not enough people talk about that, which is why out of 15 years, Michael Jordan only has 6. Out of how many years, Bron has 4. So it's not easy to do. Teammates, injuries, all these things can affect winning a championship, and there's not much you can do about that. So I think the Paul George hate needs to calm down and stop, and let's situate that energy wherever else is needed. So if you want to see more videos like this, leave a like, comment on what you think about the Paul George hate, and comment what type of video you want to see next. I respond to all my comments, and you can have your video idea as an actual video for the next video. So subscribe to the channel, and thank you for listening. Well, thank you for watching.